Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm James, that's Katie, and of course, that makes this a special bonus episode of Circles and Squares because we just had a PlayStation State of Play announcement today, Kate. It's February 25th, and we just had, about an hour worth of PlayStation updates. How you feeling?
I was great. I always love getting these. It's like Christmas.
It is. They're like mini Christmases throughout the year.
That's right.
Some
Yeah.
some people are more impressed with certain presentations than others, but I don't know. Like, I'm personally okay with what they showed today. We'll talk maybe more about our feelings on it at the end, but I think what we have planned, just because our next episode doesn't actually air till March 8th, we wanted to do a quick summary of the state of play today, just to give our thoughts before it becomes old news by the time our next episode comes out. So here you go, bonus episode for us tonight. We're going to quickly just run through everything announced during the state of play today, and then we will maybe summarize it at the end, Kate. So let's kick it off. We started off with Crash Bandicoot 4. It's About Time, coming to the PS5 with the, pretty common at this point, the 4K resolution update, 60 frames a second, haptic trigger stuff going on. I don't know. To me, this was a pretty bland way to open the show, honestly, like just because it's a game it's already out and all that. But I don't know. Does Crash do much for you?
You know what's funny is this game came out and I was sort of interested, like vaguely interested in kind of like, oh, after it's out for a couple years and it's on sale and I might pick it up. But just watching, like, I guess this is, the whole point of these shows, so it's working. But just this little brief window of seeing it, and I think just like a couple gameplay clips that I'd never seen before with some more like, some interesting boss areas and just like kind of some areas I'd never seen. I was like, "Oh, this game looks really interesting, like, I might wanna pick it up."
Hmm.
But we'll see. I think it is still gonna be on the back burner kinda thing, but it genuinely looks really good. Like, I've played some of the, like, the remaster trilogy recently, like, the very first
Hmm.
game, and, like, I just pick up and play it every now and again, and, like, I like it, it's still fun, but it's, like, it's dated in a lot of ways, and this genuinely looks like they've done a really good, like, modern version of a Crash style game,
It does, yeah,
and,
and
like,
especially
there's
on the
some
PS5, those graphics, like that 60 frames a second, I would imagine
yeah.
in a game like Crash would be game changing for
Yeah,
sure.
like, and it's so wholesome and, like, I don't know, I wasn't overly, like, it was a game I was aware of and, like, thought, like, yeah, I would eventually wanna play it, but, like, something about that trailer just kind of, like, I don't know, it ignited my, like, kinda desire to, like, "Maybe I
Your
should buy
Crash
this
passion.
game." My Crash passion. Yeah, I have a Crash Bash passion,
Yeah.
but I might settle for 4, so, yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
to me, it was a good start and, like, good to kinda get it, like you said, out of the way and then onto some new stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of new stuff, we got to wait a little longer for that because the next game that was talked about was Returnal, which of course we've seen before as well. This one really has piqued my interest a little bit more and more every time we've seen it. Especially like kind of culminating in this presentation we had today. There was a lot of kind of gameplay shown off. There was a lot of really neat looking kind of moves you could have. There's some up close combat, some they call them alt fires, so I don't know if you have kind of like a main weapon and then some different weapons you pick up, but there was a lot of different guns. It kind of reminded me a lot of Risk of Rain if you played that before.
You know what's fantastic is I have a note, like, the only note I made on this game is, "Seems kind of interesting. Reminds me of a AAA version of Risk of Rain."
Yes, okay, we're on the same
That's so
page.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested by this. It has maybe a bit of like a horror overtone. We kind of known that from the start, and then I don't know if this is indicative of kind of how the game's gonna go, but I noticed there was first and third person sections when they showed the game today. I didn't know about anything first person before, but that's a cool way to maybe change up some of the gameplay here and there. So I'm pretty stoked on Returnal. I don't know if I'll be like a day one purchase on it, but I definitely would like to try it at some point.
Yeah, this one's weird for me, like, I don't know if it's something I actively want to play, but it is something I'm intrigued by. I think they've just done a really good job of, like, marketing in it in kind of like a mysterious sort of way, uh and, like, the space kind of aspect of it puts me off a little bit, but then, like, the Lovecraftian kind of, like, unsettling horror, like, cosmic kind of side of it intrigues me, so, like, I feel a little bit torn on this one. I was surprised that it was, like, a roguelike game. I
See, I
assumed
thought
it
we
was
knew
gonna
that
be kind
already.
of Did we know that
We
already?
knew it was a roguelike from last time because it had that kind of cycle of dying and respawning and everything. So maybe it was more
Mm.
speculation, but I think they like that was my impression of it from the last time we saw it. And now this time kind of just solidified. Yes, it
Oh,
is
okay.
definitely like giving you a different map every time and different kind of enemies appear. But I was under the impression it was a roguelike before. So
Okay, maybe I just got the wrong opinion of it then, because in my mind it was just some like weird, like cerebral Kojima-esque kind of game.
yeah.
And then I guess maybe I took it a little bit too in that direction instead of like literally you are dying and starting again. It is a roguelike.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that this game is like, I don't think it's my most like anticipated. I know I want to play it game on the list, but I think it's the one that I'm kind of like most curious just to see what happens to it.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's a good point. It comes out in April, so I might play it then. We'll see. But yeah, definitely on the horizon for me for sure. The next thing that was announced is coming from EA. It was Knockout City. We actually saw that in the Nintendo Direct. I think last week, right? Was the Nintendo Direct. So this
Yeah,
is not a
yeah.
new announcement, but seeing it, I guess, again was kind of cool. I feel like they went into a bit more detail this time. About certain mechanics, like there's different trick shots you can pull off, and they have a similar mechanic to Windjammers, or where you kind of can do like perfect catches if someone throws a ball at you, time it perfectly, and then you can kind of power it up, and then your next throw, I guess, is more powerful. So it's kind of like a cool looking dodgeball thing, but I don't really know if I'll be super down to grab it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think this one to me is gonna make or break if I wanna play it, like, if there's split screen co-op or not.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I don't see myself, like, I mean, this is the kind of, like, I put it in the same kinda camp as a game like Destruction All-Stars or, like, Rocket Arena, or, like, one of those games where it's kind of like an arcadey, like, multiplayer fun game, and, like, those to me are, like, yeah, they're fine and good every now and again to, like, hop online with someone, but I only really see myself, like, being super excited to play, like, if, we're just kind of, like, sitting around, we don't really know what we wanna do for the evening, like, "Oh, let's just play a couple rounds of Knockout City," like.
yeah, yeah. I know what you mean because it's the kind of thing where you definitely wouldn't really want to play it by yourself. And then when you play with a group of friends, usually your friends have established games they want to play. Like, okay, this group likes to play Apex. These guys are into Fortnite. Like, who's gonna play Knockout City? Like, we're really into these other games. It's taking time away from the ones you already are so established in, as far as like games as a service type stuff. So I don't know if it's gonna do enough to pull me away from like Apex Legends, for example.
Yeah, exactly, and then, like, the problem with is, like, on a lot of online games, like, you're playing, like, Apex is free and, like, those kinda things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
versus this is like, well, is everyone gonna buy a copy of Knockout City to play for, like, a
Yeah, two
couple
or three
evenings here
nights.
and there? Like, maybe you would buy it, like, on the eShop on a sale, so, like, you only need 1 copy everyone can play, but, like, are we all gonna pay, like, 40, like, I don't know how much it's gonna be, but, like, probably not full price, but still, like, is everyone gonna pay $30 for, like,
Yeah,
the,
it's a
like,
good point.
you know?
It's a good point. And it's
But
too bad because if it was free, or maybe it is free, I actually don't even know if they've set a price. But I mean, if it's
yeah,
the kind of
they
thing, if it was free, I would definitely try it out. But it's the kind of thing you're exactly right. Like, unless it was, discounted or they had some kind of free weekend so we could try it or something, like it just, I don't know if it would pull me to pay like a bunch of
Yeah,
money for it.
exactly, and, like, and we're speculating, right? And, like, that's just kind of, like, nothing about the quality of this game in particular, it's just, like, it is gonna fulfill a certain niche and kind of, like, it appeals in a certain way, and, like, for me personally, those kind of games I only like in a specific, like, social setting.
Hmm.
So, we'll see, like, it genuinely looks fun, like, I think it looks better than something like Destruction All-Stars, which we spoke about last
Yes.
episode, like, this to me looks a little bit more like teamwork involved and, like, communication, and there's, like, easy to play, but, like, a little bit more of a skill ceiling, so, like, it legitimately looks like it has a lot of potential, it will depend if it comes in a convenient way for me to play.
Knockout City, according to The Verge, is 19.99 in the U.S. When it
Okay.
releases. So there you go. Not too bad actually. If it goes on, like maybe I'd even buy it for that, depending how the reviews are. We'll see. Anyways, we will move along to the next game here. This one was one of the games that was brand new to the state of play today. It's Sifu, a new game announced from a developer called Slow Clap, who I don't believe I've heard of before. But this game had a very cool premise. It looked like one of those John Wick style fighting, fight scenes, extended fight scenes, or maybe like Daredevil, those famous, not
Yeah,
maybe
the
not famous, but
hallway
like the
scene.
well-known fight scenes. People like the action people, right? So
Yeah,
it looked
yeah, the
like you're
hallway
playing one of
scene.
those. Very cool stuff. I'm definitely interested to see more on Sifu. I'm if it lives up to like what they showed on the state of play today, I'm definitely in to try this because it looks like a blast.
Yeah, it looks cool. I'm interested to see what the actual, like, mechanics are and, like, like, there's just so much, like, to speculate about this game, like, is there gonna be a story? Is it gonna be, like, an arcadey fight back and forth? Like, is it
Hmm.
gonna be like I thought one my first thought was like, "Ooh, like, I wonder if this is gonna be like VR." Like, could be kinda
Yeah,
cool.
you never know, right? My
Um,
notes basically in this game say looks cool. Wait to see more. Like, but
yeah,
interested, right? Like it's one on my watch list now for sure.
yeah, basically. It's pretty cool, and I gotta shout out I love the name Slow Clap. I think that is a fantastic name for a studio.
It is. It is. Slow clap to you, slow clap. Kate, next game on the list was Solar Ash. We've seen this one before too, although this was a more of an extended look at the game. The visual style of this one is really cool. Like the colors really pop out. There's a lot of like turquoise and like I don't know, like vibrant
And, like,
pastel kind of colors.
purple, yeah, it's almost, like, kind of neon in some ways. Yeah, this one was neat for me. This is the one I had my eye on from, having seen it previously, and the first time we just got a trailer that didn't really show any gameplay, so I kinda got, like, a lot of Journey vibes to it.
Yeah,
And I'm
and
I'm still getting that, but it's interesting they've added, like, in combat, and so, like, it looks like it is one of those kind of cinematic, like, kind of experience games, but then also there's combat and, like, kind of maybe, like, RPG sort of elements to it as well. It looks really neat. I'm actually quite interested in this one.
yeah, it definitely has that like visual appeal thing to it. Like I bet if this game had more of a generic kind of art style to it, that it wouldn't stand out so much in terms of its gameplay mechanic. But like just because of how nice it looks, I think that's like the main focus of it. And then the mechanics do look fun as well. And so I don't know, it's just like a nice little package, I guess. I kind of got like Sonic Adventure type feeling about the movement. I don't know about how you, but like it looked like when the character was jumping, they kind of had this homing attack that was reminiscent of more of a 3D Sonic style thing, and the run was
Hmm.
kind of like a skate, like Shadow back in like SA2B and stuff.
Oh,
So I don't know if
okay.
that was maybe just my lens because I always like notice games that look like Sonic, but like Sonic Adventure 2 specifically is like the only
Yeah,
one. But
yeah. Yeah,
but
no,
um
I know
yeah.
exactly what you mean. I think you sold me when you said Shadow with his skating, because that is what it looks like. But yeah, no, it seems really cool. I think this game is really cool. What will make it or break it for me, I think, is what the soundtrack is like. Because I feel like
Mm.
with these kind of games, like, they're all about, like, momentum, and it's kind of about you, like, kind of grooving with the game and getting in the rhythm, and that's sort of you're playing for that kind of, like it's like a tangible experience in a lot of ways, and I think this game needs to have, like, a really good kind of, like, immersive, upbeat I almost, like, think of it kind of, like, techno-y, I think, maybe just based on the visuals, but I think, like, if it's a really good soundtrack, you could really just get, like, absorbed in it. But if it doesn't have good, music to go along with its visuals, I think, like, it might get a little bit boring.
Yeah, it's like what I was saying, right? The mechanics itself didn't necessarily look mind blowing, but
Mhm.
the whole package of like the aesthetic and you're right, the sound. If it ends up being like a killer soundtrack or anything like that, or maybe that kind of goes with the pace of the game in some way or builds that kind of ambience. Yeah, for sure, I can see it being like
Yeah, it'd
one
be
of those
cool to
type
have
of
one of
games.
those, like, ones where the soundtrack kind of changes what you're doing, like, if you get up to full speed, it gets a little bit more intense, but if you get slowed down by something, it kinda mellows out, like, I think one of those, like, soundtracks that sort of adjust depending on what you're doing would work really well in something like this.
I thought this game looked a lot like the Pathless that we'd seen a little bit earlier in the year. I don't know that maybe that's just an aside with the
Yeah,
art and whatever, but they looked like kind of similar on face value before you really watch. Like, okay, this is
yeah,
definitely Solar Ash.
I think so, it's a lot of, like, yeah, forward momentum and a lot of, like not, like, just going through collectibles or whatever, but, like, she was kind of going through those, like, diamonds that gave her a path, and the path was to you're shooting things with your bow to kinda make I definitely see, like, some similarities for sure.
So let's move into the boring part of the presentation now. We got a back-to-back rock block of when you and I were busy, not really paying attention. I would imagine. We have Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach coming after Solar Ash. I don't really know anything about Five Nights at Freddy's other than it's kind of a meme horror game, and don't really have too much interest in it. I mean, it actually, if people are who are into Five Nights at Freddy's or this kind of thing, like it wasn't necessarily a bad trailer. It was actually kind of creepy in parts, but I don't know. I'm out on this personally.
I don't know, I'm kinda torn. I have a friend who really likes Five Nights at Freddy's, so, like, I have a feeling I will end up playing this because he's gonna wanna get it. Like, one of the, like, my
Yeah,
horror
yeah.
game groups, so, like, I feel like I'll end up playing it. I'm sort of it generally looks like it could be okay. Like, to me, it just sort of looks like a traditional horror game now with, like a Resident Evil kinda thing where you got your exploration, like, there's likely gonna be some puzzle solving. Like, to me, it looked a lot like like Outlast, Resident Evil, like all of the big horror franchises now. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because I think when this game, like at least the original one, I know there's been sequels and I haven't really kept
Yeah,
up with
I
them,
think
but the
this one's a
original one was like,
spin-off
yeah,
because
well,
it's
like
for
the original
security
ones just
breach,
had
right?
you like sitting at the camera, right, and like changing
Yeah,
through, and that was like the main gameplay. You didn't go anywhere. There wasn't like exploration or like levels to go through. It was like you just doing like your security camera job, and like the animatronics would just get like closer and closer to the screen, and it was just like the tension of like, if I look, is there going to be something bad? But then I
but you
can't
have to.
not look.
Yeah,
So I think like, and I don't know like how many games you can make with that exact premise because like it's simple and that's the point of it. So I think maybe them changing it up was kind of necessary, but it just sort of being more of a generic game kind of like paradoxically takes away the interest of it specifically being Five Nights at Freddy's.
true. Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think it genuinely looks like it could be okay. Like the animatronics are terrifying. They're horrible things.
they
The
are.
only thing that the only thing scarier is like creepy little doll toys. This is like just one step down from that. So I don't know. I'll play it. I'll see how it is.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you will. I'd like a report back because this is so far out of my realm that it'd be nice to have one of us try it out. I guess it's coming in 2021. I don't think they did put a date on it yet, so we'll have to see when that comes out. But the next game we do have a release date on, which is Oddworld Soulstorm, a game I feel like we've seen in every state of play that's ever existed because this game seems to just have trailer after trailer, or at least that's my feeling on it. But it's like,
Yes, it
I don't
really
know.
has.
This game comes out, it just to me is a total momentum killer in these presentations, man. Like it just seems dated. It seems like everything moves so slowly. Everything's brown and like washed out colors. I don't know. These characters just don't do it. Maybe I need the type of nostalgia for it, I guess. But it does seem cool with like the DualSense haptic feedback type of things. I think it senses his heartbeat with the haptic feedback, so that's kind of cool. I know the game actually is also announced to be coming out on free for the PS Plus in April as well. So that's a pretty cool announcement.
Yeah, it's cool. We're
Um,
gonna have. I think we should try it because this game doesn't interest me at all either. Like I see this and nothing about it jumps out to me as something I would be interested in. But and the weird thing is like I've never met anyone who is into Oddworld or has
right?
even played Oddworld. I've never met them. But these people do exist. They're real and they have like pretty well reviewed games. And I know a lot of people are excited about like the new game coming out. So like I feel like, and because it's free, like I think we really both need to actually just sit down and like take a look at it because maybe there's something we're missing and the game just doesn't do a great job of like visually or like telling you what it's about in the span of like a quick trailer. So
Yeah.
I have this weird curiosity just because it's like I don't understand. Like I
Well,
want to learn.
since it's coming out for free, I think you're right. We need to obligate ourselves to play this when it does come out on PS Plus. I mean, it's like a puzzle platformer kind of thing. There's some stealth, and I'd imagine it's like getting people to stand on different switches and opening levers and stuff. So it's the kind of thing I could see myself getting into mechanically. Maybe it's like the opposite of Solar Ash, where mechanically it might be really fun, but just the aesthetic and everything really turns me off. Whereas,
Yeah.
like maybe they're a good inverse of each other in that way.
It reminds me a lot of, that, like, Mario game, like, in the Toy Factory. I can't remember what it was
Oh,
called, but,
Mario
like
versus Donkey Kong?
yeah, I think so, and you're, like, in the toy you, like, had the little toys that would, like you could
Yes.
can or you, like you wouldn't control, you'd command them, they'd have to, like, pick up keys and do stuff. It reminds me of that, and, like, that
Like a
game was
Lemmings kind
okay.
of deal. Yeah, it was okay. It's like
Yeah,
leading the
it was
little
okay.
guys through the tree in Paper Mario 2. Wow, that's really off topic.
Oh god, I hope it's not like that.
Well, Kate, we have another game to talk about after this, which is a really big one for both of us. I think probably one of the biggest announcements for us. It's Kena Bridge of Spirits. We've seen this before, obviously, and unfortunately, it has been delayed from March to August. So it's a bit of a bummer, but as we always say, it's good to give the studios the time they need to put the finishing touches on the game. Better to release a good game than something earlier and with bugs and crap like that. So glad about the delay in that way. But yeah, I would have liked to play it in March. And not much else to say about it, honestly. Like, I'm already sold on this game. The environments looked really cool today, with the forest and kind of the ice biomes they showed off. And the melee looks like it really has a lot of different variation. Both melee range, looked like Kina could like fly and hover and stuff. So that looked pretty cool. I don't really need to see any more of this to know that it's something I'm really interested in, especially with those beautiful Pixar visuals. Yeah, this is definitely doing it for me.
I 100% agree. Like that's my exact takeaway. Like I was already interested last time we saw it. If anything, seeing more just makes me more interested. Like I was on board for it just being like an overwhelmingly wholesome and like nice looking world to be in. And then they showed off a bit more of the combat today, which genuinely looks really fun. So yeah, I'm 100% on board. Like out of all the things we've seen, this is the one that I think I would buy first. Solar Ash maybe being the second, but like this one definitely is the one that like I've got my eye on.
We are in agreement there. How do you feel about Deathloop?
I feel really positive about Deathloop. I want Deathloop to do well. I don't think it's a game that I would play just because I'm not a big shooter person. But I think it looks really appealing, and I love the concept. I love how stylish the game is. I love that song they wrote for it. That song is
Yeah,
great. If
yeah.
that guy's gotta come to Spotify and Deezer. Like
It
that
better.
song's good. So yeah, I think I have a slight concern that like this is the kind of game that looks amazing in a trailer because you can montage those like really stylish, like cool moments. And I really hope the game is as consistently as fun as those like that, like, cool trailer makes it look. Um, but I think it definitely has a lot of potential, and it genuinely looks really cool, and I like it a lot. I just don't think it's personally my kind of game.
Yeah, it does have that very cool kind of like, I don't even know what you'd call the style, but it has a very, very focused kind of feeling to it. Like it's almost like a time period piece in a way. But you're right about like the way that it's kind of it seems like the kind of game where the trailer is going to present really well because of all the very unique appearing abilities, and like the way that you saw that one spy, her camo is like changing as she was walking on the screen, so you could see like her whole skin, like a Mystique kind of thing from X-Men where she just changes right in front of you.
Mhm.
Really cool. But something to me, like it's gonna come down to the way the game feels, because if you're doing these cool abilities, neat animations and everything, but they start to get repetitive or anything, I think that would really take away from the game, because it's so visually pleasing to look at that you don't want to get that repetitive nature of doing the same moves over and over. But if there's enough variation there, I'd be down to try it out for sure. I don't have a lot of love for the way a lot of Bethesda published games feel usually. That's my one thing I'm a little bit worried about, just because
Mhm.
I don't know, like something about the controls just, certain studios you're like, oh, this is, a game from Rare, like I'm really gonna like the way it feels, or this is a game from Sucker Punch, and you can expect to like the way they make the games feel, to move around and get around the world. But with Deathloop, I don't have that personal confidence in Bethesda, even though they're such a acclaimed studio, but they're just not something that usually draws me. So that's the caveat I have. But like I said, if it feels good and isn't super repetitive, there's a lot of variation and stuff, I think I could definitely get into this one. Yeah, I don't know. But
Mhm.
let's talk about the last game here. Of course, the show ended with a Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade announcement, of course, because it has to have some kind of crazy name as a Final Fantasy sequel, of course. So, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade coming to the PS5 with upgraded visuals, textures, lighting, fog effects. It's going to have the performance mode, the 60 frames a second, the ray tracing, all that good stuff. And interestingly enough, they are announcing as well that there's a new DLC episode featuring another character, Yuffie, and I guess a Sonnen. I've never heard of that guy before, but he must be another character from later in Final Fantasy, the original. Looked really cool. I wasn't expecting like a DLC to kind of come out in between the first installment of the remake and the sequel, whatever it's going to be. So that's really, really surprising, and I'm really looking forward to trying that, because I loved Final Fantasy VII Remake last year. And especially coming out with the PS5 like visual upgrade, I think we get a free upgrade to that. So excited to check that out on PS5 and the DLC also.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the update definitely is free. I think all of the PS5 updates are free for these existing games, but obviously then like the DLC is not
Well,
included. You
it
do have to
depends though.
purchase that.
It depends.
I'm
Certain
pretty
games are
sure
not free. You
for
have
the
to own
update.
the you like on Control. You have to own the
Oh.
deluxe edition to get the update for free. It's just
Oh, okay,
because we got it on PS
interesting.
Plus. Yeah, it's interesting.
There's
It's like game
a
by
few
game.
caveats. Ah,
Hmm.
interesting. Okay, the majority of them, the Crash one and the Final Fantasy ones revealed today at least then
Yes.
are free updates.
Yeah, Final Fantasy's doing it right. I think the upgrade should be free as well. Especially like I think this is the best way to do it. The way Final Fantasy's done it here. Like, hey, the upgrade to PS5 version is free, and then you can still give us a bit of money if you want to play the bonus chapter, which I think is fair enough because it is bonus content. I wouldn't be expecting like DLC for free or anything, but it's nice to get the update for free for sure. Um, yeah, I mean that's the one thing about the discless PS5 though. Now that I think about it, because I have the disc for Final Fantasy VII Remake on PS4, so fuck me.
Yep, right? That's exactly how I feel about some games. I'm looking at my copy of Ghost of Tsushima and just like, I wanna cry. I wanna play it on my PS5 with the fancy new graphics.
You know the crazy thing
Um,
about this announcement too is just when they did that side by side comparison of like PS4 and PS5. I was shocked just how like quote unquote bad the PS4 version looked, even though I mean it's still obviously very beautiful to see. But just in side by side with the PS5, I was like, wow, we really have come a long way.
yeah, I was surprised because 'cause I'm the kind of person too, like it's funny because visuals are, like, important to me in a game, and I think I care about them a lot as, like, an atmospheric kind of thing, but, like, if you show me, like, 2 very similar quality things side by side, I don't always notice them, like, I guess my eyes just don't pick up exactly the, like, perfect difference in detail, especially when they're really close. But this one was a very clear, like I could very clearly tell which one was which and like what was better about it. And like I was surprised too because when that game came out, and it's not like it's even old now, I would still say that, like, it's a nice looking game, it has really good visuals, but this jump is just like you said, like, it's amazing how far it's come because, like, this, like, PS5 version now looks so good that it makes like, the PS4, which is still great, it makes it look bad in comparison.
It's that frame rate,
So
man.
that
That
to me
frame
is,
rate
like
and the lighting,
yeah,
beautiful.
and the lighting, like, it's wild how different it looks, and, like, it's just, like, that little bit smoother as well, like, around the edges.
You gonna play it?
I think eventually, like, I've wanted to, like, Final Fantasy VII is such a huge game, like, it's something I've kind of in the back of my mind always wanted to play, and this remaster, upgrade, remake, intergrade, like, version
Retrograde,
2.0,
whatever.
right? Yeah, whatever, this new version is, like, clearly, like, I know it's different, so maybe it's not like you're getting the pure experience while also getting some modern conveniences. It is new, but it looks good, I wanna play it, it's on my list, so I'm kinda glad that, like, the DLC is coming out, and then, eventually there's gonna be that part 2 that we're being promised. So, like, I'm kinda happy to wait until, like, it's all out and then maybe
Mm,
jump into it and play it eventually, but,
yeah, on the
um,
PS6 maybe then.
on the PSO, no, because 'cause I'm not gonna well, it's fine. I got digital this generation, so I can upgrade for free easily.
Fair enough. All right, well, let's wrap it up here. Let's talk about our overall thoughts on the presentation and kind of just what we, as an all encompassing piece, what we thought. I personally, first of all, I want to say I like the changes they made, kind of with the interstitials and everything in the presentation. That kind of like corner they had of all the PlayStation logos was pretty cool. I would still like to have some kind of real presenter instead of just the kind of floating amorphous woman's voice that kind of just doesn't even introduce who she is or anything. But I mean, the format's not really what we're here for, right? The state of play itself, I think it was average to slightly above average in like the announcements, just because we didn't get a lot of new stuff. It was just deep dives, right, on stuff we mostly already knew about. But for me
Mhm.
personally, like I'm very interested in Kenna. It sold me even more on that. Sifu has really preliminarily got my interest peaked as long as that game kind of continues to look good throughout its development. Returnal obviously is had a pretty good showing here, and I'm interested in checking that out. Final Fantasy, of course, like I said, really big for me. So I would say like overall, like for James, this is a good. I was gonna say direct. This is a state of play.
I
It was
know,
good.
I wanna call it a direct so badly too, like, I don't
It's
know why,
crazy.
but, like, the Nintendo is
Yeah,
coined that phrase so well.
it's unanimous. It's like the
Um
Kleenex tissue thing, but I don't. Yeah, for me, I'd say like it was good for me, but I can see how overall people might not have thought it was the strongest. But I mean, you gotta adjust your expectations. It's only February.
Exactly, and I think, like, watching this too and, like, just some of the comments on the YouTube chat when this was going live, like, I just feel like I need to say, like, "Please just be kind." Like, these people work so hard on these games, and, like, there were some really quality reveals, and, like, a lot of these games look really interesting. Like, there wasn't a single one that stood out to me as, like, "Oh, this is just some, like, soulless cash grab kind of, like, shitty like AAA game,
Yes,
like they
yeah,
just
yeah.
wanna take your money, like, they all look really good, like, there's some games that I'm really interested in, like you said, Kenna and Sifu looks neat, Solar Ash is cool, maybe eventually Crash, my lizard brain is telling me Crash is good, buy it,
And
and,
we're gonna
like
get to check out Oddworld for free.
oh, yeah, exactly, like, I think there was a lot of good and there was a lot of variety too, which is nice, like, a lot of different types of games. It wasn't just the same, like, here's 5 shooters or, like, open world RPGs are really big this year, so here's 7 of them, like, there was a lot, I think anyone could watch this and come out with at least one or two things that they think are interesting. Like, I think it was a really good presentation, and I think just because we didn't see something like the next God of War or the next Horizon or like a really big name like Elden Ring that you have
Gotta
that
get it
you
in.
want to see, you got to get it in. But just because you didn't see one of those things, I don't think like it's fair to devalue the presentation as a whole.
Yeah, I
And
don't think
like,
so either, especially in February, right? Because those games are announced towards the end of the year, and COVID's going on. We all know everything gets delayed. And why would they want to come out right now and show off a bunch of God of War and build the hype up when they're still not sure they're going to be able to deliver on that like 6 months from now or 7 or 8 months, whatever it is, and then just
yeah,
disappoint people later? Like, it's better to just wait and be more concrete in what you got and the timeline and everything and show it later. And I think people need to keep that in mind, right? You're not going to see these big, heavy hitting, like premier titles like Horizon, God of War, all those in every single one of these presentations is not going to have something like that. And like
yeah,
this Final Fantasy announcement is Final Fantasy 7 is such a big game, and like having some DLC for that and this coming to PS5 and everything is it's a big announcement to end the show off with. And just because it's a game that's already out, I get it, but I mean it's still a quality announcement, I feel.
yeah, exactly. I agree 100%. And I think a lot of people just need to kind of like be maybe a little bit more like mature about these kind of presentations. Like, I understand, there is a level of like a standard that of quality that should be met, and like there's very fair criticisms a lot of the time. But I think like when the criticism comes down to like, oh, where the hell was God of War? Then it's like, you know what, like shove off. Like, we're gonna see God of War when we're ready to see God of War. I'd rather see it when it's like more relevant and gonna be coming out soon versus like, the whole thing, like, we've seen this trailer 2 years ago, and then, they've got nothing to show for it yet. Like, that to me is way more disappointing than, like, just not
100%.
seeing something one time. So, I think
100%.
yeah, I think this was good. It was a great start. Like, I would almost rather too get, like, some of these, like, more frequently these shorter presentations of, like, that half hour, like, 35, 40 minutes worth as opposed to, like, the really big, like, 2-hour long show.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's because the pacing just gets so long sometimes when it's like those really extended shows and whatever. Like maybe the E3 ones are a bit different because they usually save like all these huge announcements for them. But even that's changing now with kind of the format to everyone does their own presentation and kind of independently and all that. So it's an interesting time for these presentations, I think, with the landscape of like everyone's at home. There's no big stage shows and all that. So I don't know what more I would have really expected
Yeah, I
from a
think so.
February.
I think the only thing they were missing was some Metallica telephone music.
Yes, I can
But,
agree with that.
but other than that, I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm looking forward to, getting some of these games, and yeah, I think overall, despite all, what's going on, I think it'll be an okay game or okay year for games.
I agree. And with that, I think that will end the bonus show here for today. So thank you for joining us for this special bonus coverage of the State of Play. And we'll be back again with a regular schedule of programming on March 8th for our 25th episode. So we'll see you then. The intro and outro music for Circles and Squares was produced by friend of the show, Matthew Chan. Interlude music is from Scott Gretton of the Free Music Archive. Our channel art was created by @unreasonable on Twitter, and our brother Alex is the designer of the Circles and Squares logo. Thank you all for listening and supporting the show.